with that. Okay, so today we're going to simplify algebraic expressions. We're going to continue this lesson tomorrow, so it's a 2-day lesson. So first thing I want us to do, though, is get some definitions and some terms going here. So first thing are the parts of an expression, okay? So parts, write this down. Parts of an expression. So let's take an expression like this. Negative 4x plus 12 plus x plus 3y. Write that down, please. All right, so first of all, we're going to, the first vocabulary word is the word terms. And the terms are simply the parts, okay? Separated by pluses and minus signs. So how many parts does this whole expression have? Well, this is a term, negative 4x. 12 is a term. X is a term. And 3y is a term. So this has 4 terms. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. It's just the separate parts, right? So these are the parts, and it's separated by pluses and minuses. Okay, so some people think, oh, well, negative 4 is a term and x is a term. No, negative 4x, the whole thing is a term. Okay, so when I say, oh, what's the third term? The third term is 1, 2, 3 is x. X is the third term. Got that? Okay. Okay. Next, this one's a little bit easier. Okay. Constant. 12 is a constant. So what is a constant? Constants are simply numbers, no variables. Because it doesn't change. No matter what x is or no matter what y is, 12 is 12. That's it. Doesn't change at all. So 12 is 12. That means that 12 is your constant. Okay? Now here's a term that gets people confused a lot, and it's the term coefficient. So what is a coefficient? A coefficient is simply the number in front of the variable. It tells you how much you have. So for example, if I say I have 7 apples, my coefficient would be 7. 7 is how many apples I have. Okay, and now here's the important part. Coefficients are just the number, no variable, just the number. So here are my coefficients. Let's see. So one of my coefficients is negative 4. That is a coefficient. Another coefficient, I look for the variables, I see the y, so 3 is my other coefficient. Now there's one more, and this one's the tricky one. I have another variable right here, which is x. What number is in front of the x? There's a hidden secret number.
Mr. Leon,
Mm-hmm.
do we follow PEMDAS or left to right?
You would not. So we're not adding or anything right now. You would do PEMDAS. I mean, as always. So PEMDAS should always kind of dictate how we do our math. But right now we're not doing anything. We're just kind of labeling parts. Okay. Some people are putting in there, what is the secret coefficient? Okay, the secret coefficient in front of the x is the number 1. Think about it, right? Like right now, I can say I have a pencil, or if I said I have 1 pencil, same thing. I have 1 pencil, I have a pencil. Same thing. So I don't really need the number 1, so we don't write it all the time. Okay? Or if I said, hey, this is a cup of water. I could also say this is 1 cup of water, right? The number 1 we just don't say it all the time, but it's always there. Okay. Okay. So one more term, which is like terms. Oops. Like terms have the same variable to the same power. Okay, so that's what we talked about on that last slide, the idea of what can we combine, which ones can go together. Well, in this case, our like terms are 1x and negative 4x. Those are the only ones that could be combined. Okay. You cannot combine the 12 with them. The 12 doesn't have an x. You cannot combine the y with them. The y doesn't have anything in common, right? So let's practice this. I know it's a little bit confusing, so we're going to practice this a little bit, and hopefully we'll kind of get the hang of it. Okay. All right. So check it out. Letter A. Let's do this. I've got 6n plus 8 minus 2n and I'll add one more, plus 1. Okay. So let's break this down. And actually, the very first thing before we break it down is we don't want to do minuses, so let's do keep switch change, so that instead of our minuses, we turn them into adding. You'll see why in a second. The main thing is because I don't know if that's a negative 2 or if that's minus a regular 2, so let's do keep switch change. Check it out. So our first step will be keep, switch, and change. So 6n plus 8. Okay, here we go. So plus a negative 2n. Okay, so I change this to adding a negative. Plus 1. Okay. Okay, so now we know that's a negative 2n. That's really important. We'll see why in a second. Okay, so first of all, what are the terms? Or rather, how many terms do we have? Let's start there. How many terms do we have on this one? Put in the chat, how many terms do we have? Thank you. Thank you. Good. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, there's 4 terms, right? What are those 4 terms? Go ahead and list them. You can do them in any order. There's just you can mix them up so that you have all the n's first if you want. That's fine. Okay. Or you could just write them as is. So the 4 terms that I have, right? Very good. Is so you have 6n, you have 8. Now this one a little tricky. This is negative 2n. Yeah, we have to understand that's a negative 2n, that this is a whole thing right here, right? And you have 1. Okay. The negatives, of course, always make things tricky, but that's how we do these ones. Yeah. So the third term, 1, 2, 3, is actually negative 2n, not 2n. Negative 2n. Okay. Do I have any constants? What are my constants? Okay. Yeah, what are my constants? What are my numbers? Yeah. Yeah, again, I would change all of my subtractions to addition so that I can see that they're negatives, guys. That's gonna help you a lot. Make sure you do this step right here, which is do your keep switch change. Okay, what are my constants? Let's check it out. What are my numbers? They're just regular numbers. We have positive 8 and positive 1. Those are my constants, right? Those are just regular numbers. Okay, So here's the new term. Here's the one where we need the most practice probably, is what are my coefficients? And again, pay very close attention to this. Remember, the coefficient is the number in front of the variables, just the numbers. So again, if you understand this term, this vocabulary word, then it's really simple because you don't have to do any adding, subtracting, multiplying. All you have to do is tell me what the numbers are. So go ahead and put that in the chat. What are the coefficients of our expression? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Yep, that's right. Good. I want just the coefficients, not the whole thing. All right, let's see some more people put the answer in the chat. What are the coefficients? Again, find the variables and just put the number that is right in front. That's all you have to do right now. Find the variables and then figure out the number that is right in front. No, the number. I want the number, guys, not the letters. I should see no letters when you're talking about coefficients. Coefficients are numbers. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, the coefficients are right here, guys. Look, check it out. 6. Here's the n, so it's going to be 6 and -2. Again, that was why it was really important to put the key switch change. Some people are putting 2 in the chat. Again, it's a -2. Okay, -2. Okay, lastly, are there any like terms? Any ones that we would eventually combine? Any ones that we would eventually combine? Okay, so which ones are together? Which ones could we put together that have the same variable or no variable to the same power? Let's take a look there. And I'll give you a hint. There's 2 separate sets. 2 sets. All right. Good. I can see some in the chat. Okay. First of all, we have 6n and -2n. Those are the same, right? They both have just an n. So we've got one set, which is, okay, 6n and -2n. So this is one example of like terms. The other example is already highlighted for you, which is 8 and 1. Those are like terms, right? They don't have variables. Constants are always like terms with other constants. You can still combine those. So 8 and 1 are also like terms. Okay. So again, all we're doing here is vocabulary, just identifying things and saying, okay, how many terms are there? Well, there are 4 of them. There are 4 terms. I can split it up into 4 separate sections, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 4 terms. What are my constants? What are my numbers that don't have variables? Well, 8 and 1. What are my coefficients? What are the numbers that are in front of my variable? Well, my variable is the letter, so just find the letter and tell me the numbers right in front. And then lastly, what are the like terms? What could I group together? Well, these have n's, and these are just regular numbers. So those are groups like that. Pretty simple, okay? On your IXL tonight, you're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, find the third term and what's the coefficient? Or how many terms are there, right? The biggest thing is for coefficients, a lot of people like to put the variables and they like to say, oh, that's 6n and -2n. This is wrong. Make sure you do not do that, okay? Coefficients are just the numbers. Pretty straightforward. Okay. All right, so this is just part of what we're doing as far as algebraic expressions. There's going to be more tomorrow, the second day, but this is the main. This is like a good part to make sure that we're all speaking the same language, right? Math, again, I've told you before, math is kind of like a language, and we want to be all speaking the same language. That way we can communicate better. So you need to be able to find these things and be able to do that, all right?